We are back at it again, swinging for the fences. Um, as I was telling Brother Kamar, we are forcing ourselves. You remember when Mike went down to I did what they don't call baseball, the G League, but he was like, no, 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 I can't go straight to the NBA, MLB. I gotta go to the Cactus League first, and so
It's a process to this.
it's a process to it. So this is our Cactus League, not our debut. This is game two, you know, and just excited to be in the building. Talking about um, a certain group of books that Kamar and I have kind of like just listed as some books that we've read in our own book club. And again, my name is Mylan Drake, and you are brother.
Kamara Gwen, peace.
Yeah, I just started talking like people know us, like we famous out here, bro. Everybody know who we are. Um, and we just identify some books. We've been in a book club together. The book club itself has existed for almost about 20 years, and we've had a group of rotating folks, but now we kind of solid with the group that we have now. And we were like, well, what would it look like expanding that conversation to other spaces? And so this is that. Um, and the first book, I literally get up. Oh, hold on, I see it. It has. Well, I'm not going to grab it because it's on the floor, but because it just dropped. I was like, where did it go? I put
I
it up on.
got you.
Okay, I put it up on a playing next nice thing, and I'm looking over. It's empty. The book said, "Nah, bro, I'm out. I didn't agree to this." Man, book don't even want to be a part of the book club. I picked you. But it's the Spook Who Sat by the Door by the late great Sam Greenlee. Um, and for those who have not had the chance to read the book, I highly recommend it. I also I meant to send it to you too, Kamar, because I don't even know if I can't remember if I asked you if you've seen it, but the movie, which I owned, but I was just looking at it, and I can share the link with some folks after we do this. Um, but yeah, I think just as a intro, I would the first, like, we can do this like in a 15-minute master class, brother. Like I have done before.
Mhm.
Is the first question I would throw out, to go around the room would be what simply, checking in, and then what were your general thoughts when you read the book, um, and if you read it more than once, like thoughts when you read it the first time. I've only read it once, what have you.
Yeah, I mean, I think by way of check-in, all is well. The public may not be aware. I know that Drake, you have this thing about checking in around. Make sure you check in as a person. Oftentimes, people will start checking in and to tell you about work or tell you about stressors.
Yeah.
So it's a good Saturday. I'm alive and well. I'm feeling good. It's good to be here with you. Folks also don't know that we meet on Saturdays for our book club. So this is a double dose of book clubness, which is always a good thing to be able to take space and time to build and bond with brothers. This is very much, I think, maybe third time around for reading The Spook Who Sat by the Door. I think if you have a list of recommended books, so if you Google like recommended Black books to read, in the canon, this is going to be on that list. But you and I often take those lists, and there's some that are on there that we kick off. I think if you would say, top 10 for sure, this is going to be on my list as well. So reading it two, three, four times, I'll always pick up something new. And books are like conversations. You remember them, or they change or impact you based on the current times, right? And so, what better time in society, given just what we're seeing in terms of folks' viewpoint around what it means to not only be Black, but the response to that in our country right now? What better time to root yourself in something that says, we do have agency, we can think and be strategic, and we can map out plans that help us be more successful in this thing that we call life.
100%, I agree. I believe it's time three or four for myself as well. I am good. Birthday weekend for me. It approaches. It is almost here. It's real close. And so uh, same as you, brother. Just happy to be above ground. Um, and I say this, I think I said this before. I don't know if I've ever said it publicly on a recording, but I probably have, especially when talking about my birthday. Is it has this um, a, a transition, and this is so my father passed away in 2012. This two
Mhm.
makes 13 years. He passed away October 18th. I had went to, I heard about him being sick, so I think I went like October 2nd, 3rd, or something like that. Went down to Waco, Texas, check on him. I left. When I left, he was out of the hospital doing air quote better.
Mhm.
And then maybe a week or two after that, he passed away on October 18th. October 18th is also the day of the anniversary for the last big quake we had here.
Mhm.
Um, Lots of, connections. So he passed away October 18th, went down back to take, to take care of his burial situation. Um, Had to view, you for those who have not gone through this process, congratulations. For those that are a part of this fraternity that don't want to be a part of it, there's a lot of things you got to decide. What are they going to wear? Color of the casket, all of this stuff. You doing all this.
Mhm.
We had got to a point to where it was time to view the body to confirm, did they embalm him too? And that's too much, and all of that stuff. And that was on my birthday. So October 26th, went
Mhm.
to the funeral home to view his body, make sure everything was straight, buried him, funeral ceremony, and all those things on October 27th. So it took two things. It took about, man, I want to say 4 or 5 years before I'd say before I got my birthday back,
Mhm.
because I had that all of those thoughts in my head, and then after year 4 or 5, 6 through this one, I've been in a space of sometimes I think about it, sometimes I don't. Sometimes it's good thought, man. Good relationship, miss pops. Sometimes it's like, man, that was crazy. All it. So this has been I have thought about it, but not in a, man, I'm struggling. It's just like, just recognition,
Mhm.
the reality. And then, man, as far as same thing. I was just trying to really register my mindset around some upcoming travel, going to a conference, um, trying to be grounded in just being present, and it's in Texas. And so that was the other thing. I've been doing all this preparation to go to this conference, which is in Texas, which is around my birthday, which is all of these things. So just trying to be trying to be mindful of recognizing what's going on around me without also being taken to a place mentally where it's not cool. So that has been, where I've been tap dancing, getting my Gregory Hines on.
I'll tell
And
you another one for October the 18th.
what's that?
That's actually my father's birthday.
Really?
Yeah,
I didn't,
really.
I didn't know that. Yeah, I have a cousin that's her birthday. Yeah, man,
Mhm.
it's an interesting, and you, again, you just being aware versus trying to be sad. Kamar is like, I was going through some stuff, and Katie Meyer, soccer player who died by suicide, was a student I was working with at Stanford. She died by
Mhm.
suicide. She was a soccer player. Stanford won the championship. She was a goalie. Um, and uh, I was thinking about her, and I was trying to something that we had worked on. I was trying to get some information about her, so I googled like Katie Meyer, this like biography. Like,
Mhm.
like, oh, that's what it was. I was trying to explain to somebody what was her major, and it was international relations.
Mhm.
And I was like, what is it? I couldn't think of what it was called. So that's why I was Googling, like, what was Katie's major? Find this article about her and about who she was. It was like I feel like it was early in her academic year. No, she might have been a senior. I think it said it in there. The article was written on October 18th. 20.
Mhm.
It's like these interesting, like of all the dates for me to, I'm Googling some stuff, like a random article. Let me click on this one, the dates. And so just really, just being in the moment, man, and being in the moment doesn't necessarily mean being sad. It doesn't mean being overly jubilant. just being thankful and grateful, man. Like I said, it could be a whole nother way. I could be not here. I could be here, and it don't take too many. It don't take too many
Mm-hmm.
blocks. You don't have to bend too many corners in where we stay to see somebody in a completely different situation.
Yeah,
That
facts.
that'll take whatever our ills are quickly. You want to
Mm-hmm.
trade? Like, and
Mm-hmm.
again, and sometimes it's not. I just want to be crystal clear. It's never about comparing. Like I'm better off, or it could have been. But it's also sometimes you need a, hey man, ease up on my life is. Man, I can't believe I only got into this school and didn't get in. Like, oh, I mean, if that's your only issue, or congrats. You know what I mean? There are some,
Facts.
there are some family members, and I've had conversations with. I never talked to Katie's mom, but I have talked to her dad, um, one good time, or twice. We talked. Well, it was within the same 24 hours. Um, and I just understand that there's a completely. He was talking about, being on Stanford's campus is totally different for him, and I remember that too. It's like walking and seeing, other students laughing and giggling. Like it's a totally different
Mm-hmm.
mindset. Um, and I think that's the beauty of being in spaces like book clubs, is because they have a way of centering your thoughts, the things that centering your thoughts, aspirations, and wonderings. But there's also a way of centering sometimes some realities. Sometimes you're reading a fantasy book and you're like, man, this is far out. Which we struggle with in our book club. Is you start getting too far to fantasy. Where, man, what this fool talking about? Everybody happy, man. Come on, but have you not heard of it? So we do struggle with that, honestly. Um, but in this book, being that it's fiction, it is also, um, one of the beautiful things about fiction is it can be your clay, where
Mm-hmm.
you can make the. How did he get that job? Don't matter, bro. He
Right.
got it. I didn't even see him. Why did they pick him and not him? It doesn't, because it's my book and I'm making it up. It's fiction. Do whatever. You have the luxury to create unfiltered realities, or pretend realities. So,
Mm-hmm.
with that being said, like I think I said it. It's my third or fourth, and I watched the movie so many times I lose count. Like I watched it recently and I was like, oh, there's a couple of scenes I was like, oh, I forgot about. Sometimes you can know exactly, like if I watch Coming to America, I know every single thing that's about to happen. There's nothing in that movie. You're like, man, you see some new things. Not over here, bro. Like I just see Coming to America so many times that there's nothing. Oh, look at him. I didn't know you had on. No, I noticed that last time. I
Yeah, if they
noticed.
ever lose the Masters, bro, all I got to do is tap you in.
Yeah,
Like you'll
exactly.
be good to go.
I can be your book of Eli, like, so then there was this moment. He has the whole movie in his head. Um, but this I did see a couple of new things, and new conversations in this, and when I watched it recently. And I think I would throw the question back to you of, what is it about the book? We both agree it's in my top five. If I'm writing a list, I'm like, man, you got to read this book. What is it about this book that resonates with? Because it's not true. It's fiction. It's not like, man, it's a book that gave me so much insight, and like, it's tons of fiction books that both of you and I can. I don't even remember reading that, bro. Like I don't know. It doesn't matter. So what is it about this book that is fiction that makes that it sticks, it stays the course and gets to be in your top five, and something that you read more than one.
Yeah, I think I was trying to look. I don't know if it was in this introduction or if it just if it happens to be just in some of the, when you watch videos and stuff to see what what Sam Greenlee would say about his writing. So it might not be here. Maybe there's a different introduction somewhere, but essentially for him, there are some things in here where it's clear where his audience lies, right? And so, when you're reading a text, sometimes you say, okay, well, it's not going to suit everybody, but who is it intended to suit? And he is unapologetic in saying that he's writing for and about Black people from a Black experience. And so I always start there, because even in the sense of building and molding clay, if you start from but the people that I want to look at my end product, if you have them in mind, you write the book in that type of way. And so I think he holds no punches, right? I think sometimes even in your own imagination, you are concerned about how people will respond to the thing that you're putting forward and birthing into the world, instead of just doing the thing. So I think he did the damn thing from that standpoint, right? And he does say, I'm not worried about who else is going to critique it. I wrote this for a certain group of people. And I can feel that what he's getting at in this book is this underlying sense of somewhat despair, but giving you a sense of, if you had the pen to write it, this is the strategy that you can use to not only in some ways get even, but to get ahead. So I think he speaks towards some of the things that people in private conversations might say amongst themselves, but won't necessarily say in public. And I say in public because it's in a written format, anybody can pick it up, right? But I'm always fascinated by folks who know their audience, write for their audience, and don't try to, lack a better term, water it down so to be more palatable to other folks that are not within that same community context.
Yeah, and it's funny you say that about the introduction. I was trying to see.
I don't see it in this one.
Yeah, I don't have an
So it might have been an interview. I don't either. So it might have been something else I read, maybe an article or interview.
Actually, one of the few books, it says, to my wife, Nikki, the spook who sat by the door, and then today the computers would
right.
Like, you got right to it, brother. Like, I don't even know what I'm about to get into, but I guess we're about to find out. One of the and I'll respond in the same thing. There's also this conversation that the reason why I'm able to pick up on, I've thought that some of the things that Dan Freeman is engaging with, I've thought, and I read this when I was slightly younger, so not in the sense of like, oh man, I get it, being in the corporate world, I too. It was like, nah, it was just, how do you sometimes lead, do what you need to do, go where you need to go, but then also have this space where I can't forget about where I'm from. And
Mhm.
and I don't, and I think you and I have talked about this offline and in the other book club, is I don't know if everybody has that. Everybody doesn't have that. I don't want to use the word burden, but that's a reality that is often that they have to ask either yes or no to. I don't know if Caucasian, um, Europeans. I don't know if they're like, man, I gotta remember my European brothers as I go through this world. Like, I don't know if Slovenians, or like I don't know other culture. I know there are other cultures that feel that, but I don't know if it's just specific in being in America, which is predominantly, well, it is a white European Eurocentric space. But as time has gone over or passed, we are no longer a country that is dominated by one culture. There's a bunch of cultures here that mix, so you get a bunch of folks coming from different spaces, and that reality might be for them. If I came here from China, there might be in my mind, as I'm doing all these things, I got to remember where I came from. And so the book, it highlights a welcomed thought that I have had personally. I'm like, man, how do I do that? How do I move forward while also moving, or full Sankofa? Like, how do I move forward while looking back? And as you know, in football and track, they tell you never look back while you're running, because you always lose a foot or two. Just the way the mind is working, you're not going to be running as fast when you can't see where you're going. And I don't know, Sankofa obviously pushes back against that reality that as, and because I think the other thing about the concept of Sankofa, it does not talk about speed. So it says move forward.
It's the journey, right?
Only in football, you're talking about speed. Track, you're talking about speed. Sankofa is just like, hey man, as you move forward, don't forget about where you come from. something else I thought about in relation to this book. I was talking about bringing this musical remix. This is for those who cannot see. This is JT. This is the cassette. And this is not the single. This is the album, or the full cassette. JT, Bigger Figure, Dwelling in the Lab. There's a couple of things that I wanted to highlight, and that is a kind of comparison. And if you know this or agree with this album or with this conversation, Kamar, feel free. But if you have another musical
reference,
yeah, would love to hear it. But this made me think, because that's what Dan Freeman was doing. He was consistently in the lab trying to figure out, and this album, which I was trying to find the exact release date. It's so tiny. 95. Yeah, 95.
I mean, you did say tape, so you don't have to.
It's clearly not 2025, but yeah, he this is 95, and he was. I remind people about this album because it was also before its time. I think JT, his production would be, I would liken him to, shout out to Ninth Wonder and Ruben Vincent, who just dropped the album on October 24th. I would liken him to a Ninth Wonder, and I think the best that he was, the most flowers JT was able to garner was maybe he's the Ninth Wonder for the Bay Area.
Mm-hmm.
And I disagree. I think his music was just amazing. The way music spread throughout the world was different in 95. And so it just didn't get, everybody, people in New York talking about, I'm listening to JT. Now there might be somebody in New York listening to it, but I'm saying again that the overall hip hop community. But I liken JT to Dan Freeman, the main character of this book, The Spook Who Sat by the Door, because I felt like he was consistently living his life being in this lab. And it was a self lab, lab where he had to think about, what is it that I want to do? And then also, I got to do things because I know somebody's watching me. So let me go in this bar, do the typical things that they think a black man would do, so that they don't, oh no, he just went to a bar, hung out, drank, left, blah, blah, blah. He's normal. But if he would have been to a library, like, I don't know about that, brother. Something's fishy. So I think that conversation of lab, in this lab being for us sometimes, how we eat, breathe, drink, where we live, where we stay, who we commune with, all those things. But being very specific or being very intentional. JT was like, that's what I'm doing. And Dan Freeman being very specific, intentional. This is what I'm doing. Like I never stepped foot in here to get this job just to get paid. I came in here for a very specific reason. And I wanted to make that musical connection. Do you have another, or are you familiar with this 95? This might be before your time, cassette and all.
No, yeah, I definitely, definitely was putting batteries in the freezer to make sure that whatever device that I put that tape into was able to.
We still don't even have proof. We don't even have evidence that it really worked, but we did it. We just did it. I don't know if it worked. I have no, bro. When I used to put them in I used to listen for hours. I don't have a story like that. I got nothing. So
yeah, serious. But yeah, I think JT in and of itself in that album, but just thinking about, so one, there's kind of these two elements. It's like the if you know, right? So for some folks whoever might listen to this, right, they might be the first time that they ever go back and go check or Google or check for JT, right? So there's the if you know, but then there is the, for those who do know, where do you rank and put, right? So I think that is the same thing. First time holding this up for some people might say, I never even heard of that book. Let me go check it out. And then there's the ones who are like, I've read it 3 or 4, 5 times, and this is where my perspective is around it. I think the beauty and let me see. So there's kind of two things. One, maybe JT is not commercially as famous and successful as some people who might not be even as talented. But I think for those who do know, would rank him high in the pantheon of, like you said, the producers and the folks who might be. I think it's the same here for this particular book. And the reason why I say that is, we started off kind of saying very clear on who's the audience. And this was me picking up from interviews that he had did, right? From listening to, so his audience was Black folks. That's who he was writing for. But also I began to think about, in your examples, you kind of was explaining, and what I was picking up was it made me think about like this double consciousness, this dual consciousness that Du Bois talks about, right? He's not saying that directly in this text, but this is a text that I could hand to a brother or someone who's never even been exposed to that theory or that concept. And we can have a conversation about what it means to be Black and have to move in multiple spaces, and which parts of yourself you present publicly and hold back in reservation for survival, for advancement, for building community and all these things. And he does that beautifully through this. And he also does something that I see very few books do. He takes a demographic of people and shows them ways that they can be powerful in a society that continually represents them in a way that says that they are kind of worthless in society. And what I mean by that is that folks don't know that his ultimate allies in the book becomes Chicago street gangs. And if you know anything about Chicago street gangs or street gangs anywhere, the organizational structure of those entities are strong, but because of the activities that they get associated with, that's not set in the same context of like a Fortune 500 company or a grassroots organization, et cetera. And so with that, he does a thing of being able to say, this is how I think about my consciousness, but he also does a thing that says, this is how you value things that happen in the Black community that we don't talk about. These are assets that we can use for our advancement that often don't get put on the pedestal that they need to. Now, I'm not here saying that organizing gangs is the way that we get quote unquote free, as there was a strategy for him in the book. But what I am saying is that what he's lifting up is that there's often a group of folks within the Black community whose voices aren't paid attention to enough. And are not given credit for having assets that can help us build to places that we need to go, even in that Sankofa moment, or whether or not in real time, listening to folks who don't oftentimes have the platform. I think he does a beautiful job at that in a way that makes a person who is an avid reader, or a person who's picking up a book maybe after not reading the book since high school, right, still being able to tap into the beauty and the essence of what this book has to offer.
Now that's it. Spot on and unknowingly a great segue to my last question around the takeaways, and that is one of my takeaways that you mentioned about somebody who hasn't read since high school. There are two books that I read. One I read in high school. Shout out to Samari Ware, my middle school or elementary school homie who I ended up still going to high school with, and I was getting in trouble my senior year. It was just the school would classify it as trouble, but I was asking a lot of questions. So every time we read a book, they would, excuse me, in my very in living color, my sister, is there a reason that you picked this book about racist activity in America, and why do I or do we have to So I was just asking a lot of questions. Everything she did, she say, write an assignment, write a book report. I think this book is filled with three main things: racism, and oh my gosh, that's not what you asked me to write. So I wrote. So I was constantly just getting in trouble. So Mari was like, look, bro, we are 5 minutes from graduating. Sit back here with me before you get kicked out this class and have to do your whole senior year over. And she went in her backpack, reached out, gave me this book. It was called Disappearing Acts. And Terry McMillan. And she was like, you need to read this. And I was like, I don't read like that. I was not an avid reader at that time. But I say that it was one of the first books I ever finished, and it was fiction. But I tie it to this book because being in high school or coming out of high school and not being an avid reader, this is one of those books where the language is not going to be crazy. The conversation is relatable. I'm not from Chicago, but I get it. You know what I mean? Like nothing in this book was like, yeah, bro, once you started talking about the blah, 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 I was like, it kind of lost me. It was never lost. It was just a pick it up and go. So that was one of my takeaways, that you can write in a way that your audience feels like they're with you and not they're talking with you and not being
Hmm.
taught. So that was number one for this book, a takeaway. Number two, that there are other people who see the the struggle of not just people but Black folks to be in spaces and try to I wouldn't use the word you know, code switch. It's not about code switching as much as it is how can I be myself and then also be what is necessary to get to show that I know how to do this job. So one, an easy read, or a comfortable read, not an easy read,
Hmm.
a
Hmm.
comfortable read, even if it's somebody who hasn't read a book since high school, or you might even be in high school. I think it's a comfortable read. Two, um, the author made me believe that he saw what I too saw and slash would struggle with when I first picked up this book. And then lastly, um, I don't want to say my biggest takeaway, but my third takeaway would be the book helped me to realize the power of fiction. As I said earlier, this ability to massage realities, because this is not something that happened, but it's something that I can write to and write through because it isn't real.
Hmm.
When you're writing the history of Martin Luther King or the Rosa Parks or whatever the case may be, you got to stick to the facts because otherwise you are disrespecting and denigrating somebody's truth and legacy. But this Dan Freeman can be whatever you want him to be. He can be pro this, tall, short, brother. You could do whatever. Married, not married. Like you can figure it out. And I think that third reality of it. This is one of those books that helped me realize that I can write. Shout out to Steve Biko. I can write what I like.
What I like.
I can write what I like, and I feel comfortable being in a space where the writing and the reading allow me to flow. So that would be my takeaway. As we um, stomp for the door. What would be your and feel free to not have three takeaways in the revolutionary readers that we are. Like you don't have. I only got one takeaway.
Yeah, I definitely don't want folks to think um if tell you if the book is trash or something that we don't you gonna get that too, right? So I
Yeah.
know that so far it's been a glowing endorsement, but it is because it is multifaceted in its way to be able to have us have different entry points into conversations about things that um from my perspective are on my mind a lot, but also I know that is on the mind of a lot of other Black folks. I think one takeaway for me, Drake, I know that you are a huge, I want to say what the word is, um, that you have the utmost respect for Nipsey,
Mhm.
and the way that he lived his journey and during his time here on the planet with us. And we do know that he was inspired by the text as well. And I bring that up just to say is that the parallels that I draw between at least knowing what we do know from afar, right? Not knowing Nipsey personally and then not knowing this brother personally, right? But or the fictional character. I'm already giving the reality, right?
Dan, where
um,
you at? Next week we bringing Dan to the table, y'all. Dan Freeman, welcome everybody. Like, wait, what? Dan Freeman pulling up? He's still alive? Yeah, he's still here, brother. You gotta respect your ancestors, man. Dan's
oh
still here.
snaps! But the character, there is this sense of discipline and purpose, and a clear pathway between what actions need to be taken in order to get to a certain destination. And we see that he is constantly in the book adding different tools to his toolkit and his tool bag to have weapons to use when he needs them, right? Everything from having your physical body being what it needs to be, being mentally sharp, doing strategy, all of these things that he equipped himself with in order to be able to navigate the spaces that he was going to find himself in is an important lesson. The other takeaway is I'm really some people are really into fiction and sci-fi and that type of stuff, and I always felt like it was escapism. right? That it wasn't rooted in reality, and it gives people an opportunity not to deal with reality for a bit. And it might be true in some ways, but in listening to you talking, revisiting this book, this notion of having clay, and having an opportunity to shape clay, where in society does those spaces exist for Black folks outside of the arts, which is something that is top of mind for me, right? Because a lot of those things, um, you can sit down with a pen and pad and write a book. It doesn't take much capital. It takes time. It takes you, but it's hard for you to start the next Apple, right? And so on my desk there is we have a mutual friend. I'm not going to say his name because he didn't give me permission to say his name. But the brother used to work at Apple for a very, very long time, and he gave me this thing on Steve Jobs. And essentially, it's a quote from Steve Jobs that says, "Hey, I could be gone tomorrow, and so I'm going to live my life the way that I need to. Forget who's judging me, but I'm going to go out and create." Well, for some way for him, he has a license psychologically to be able to do that, to go out and shape clay, to build an apple. I don't know that we always have that luxury and freedom to be psychologically free to be able to go out and do that thing, right? And so any Black person who has given themselves the privilege to be able to not have to deal with the day-to-day stressors, but to take time and to create another world through which we can experience is super powerful. And the last thing is I would say is that a takeaway for me is that folks might not know, but I've spent almost a lifetime now, but definitely a career helping and supporting students, and in particular thinking about helping and supporting Black students. And somewhere along the lines, Black kids lose their clay. And that is a very concerning thing for me, because then that turns into Black adults, right? Grown folks who've lost their clay. And so I think we admire folks who are able to do this, not just, this brother who's written this, but there's a lot of people that we place in great esteem, not only for the power of their pen, but their power of purpose to be able to say that we can envision a world outside of this, or we can articulate our world in a way that says, I might not put words to it, but your gift is able to put words to what I'm feeling on the inside. And so for me, he does both ends. He continues to shape clay and model for us what we can do when we sit down and say, give ourselves the permission and license to actually create. And then the other thing is that his pen, without being too verbose, and like you said, it's still accessible, his pen has articulated feelings that I perhaps couldn't have put words to. He's done that well in various places throughout the book.
Yeah, no, that clay conversation, and shout out, I see brother Cortland. I'm gonna figure out a way to let you
get him in.
This is just a prototype day 2, so I might have to send you a text message. Actually, I'm gonna do it right now. I'll let you. Yep, I'm gonna send. Yeah, I'm gonna put it in the text message, brother. But there's this conversation that you brought up that I don't know, and my wife was pointing out. I was listening. I called Richmond Rescue specifically, and this is not a knock or anything bad. I was just, I was calling Richmond Rescue because I have a family member who had to stay there at one point in their life. So whenever I have clothes that I need to, that I'm growing out of or don't wear, or suits or whatever, I always go to Richmond Rescue. I can go, it's Goodwill and all that stuff right down the street, but I specifically, because they took care of this family member, 2 family members to be exact, at a time when they needed them. And I called, and on the directory, it was saying, for women and children, press this button. If you need a place to stay, women and children, press this button. And if you need a place to stay, men, press this button. And I was like, why didn't they say men and children? Like, it was just interesting that it was like, well, men, y'all struggling by yourself, but if women, it's usually women in struggle. Now again, that's not a knock on, because I was brought up. I mean, it was when I was talking about it. It could be they were talking about women and or children. Press this button, and then men press this button. And you know, there's and I totally understand there's reasons for, you know, you want to talk to, you know, Rick, who works with the brothers, Susan works with the women or what have you. But I say all of that to say is that that clay that you mentioned, that not only is it lost by Black children, and then eventually a clay that is lost by Black adults, but when that clay is lost with Black men, we forget how to be clayful, if that makes sense. Like we don't know how to be creative. We don't know how to be vulnerable. We don't know how to be transparent because, well, I wasn't that when I was 7. So why would I be that when I was 17? And then if I wasn't that at 17, why would I be that at 27? If I wasn't that at 27, like it doesn't make sense mathematically. And so the ability to have a space, and that's the purpose of, you know, the book club, is a space for you to be fully transparent, vulnerable, what have you, but then also really be able to engage and understand what words have been put on thin wood sheets, also known as pages. And I know books come in pages. Their books are practically as old as cassettes at this point, because everybody wants to read digital. But being able to have that conversation about how can I learn and be inspired by the Sam Greenlees of the world, and be like, you know what, I want that. I want to be able to delve in with clay, and we see it all the time, man. You see it in movies, you know, movies like, oh man, that was creative. That was, yeah, they really brought up a major point. Let me make sure Clay Cortland is not saying. So now the thing about Brother Cortland, the link got me back to where I am now. He said this is deep though. So again, we figuring it out. I thought I gave him the guest link, but it just brought him back here to not letting him in. And which is the weirdest thing about this when we live stream, because we want to live stream so that other brothers have access, but we might have to just keep it. It's just a Riverside link because inside the space, because I can control it a little bit better.
Yeah, they didn't put that in the advertisement. Like you might have a little bit of trouble with that part. So
let me see.
Is he on the side? Is there a panelist? I mean, a guest on the side panel? I don't think so.
It says, I'm gonna do one more thing, Brother Cortland. I know he's just like, I'm just happy to be here. Yeah, but we want you to, we want to hear, if there's one voice in the world that I want to be able to bless folks with. Let me see. I'm gonna send it to. I'm gonna do it one more time this way. I'm gonna try one more time, Brother Cortland, and then you know, Cortland with the T. I always sound like I'm saying this is
it's like you're saying Southland.
Yeah, you know, that's how my diction, my articulation needs some structure there. And I should know best, because I get my name gets frequently butchered. But the good news is I always know people aren't doing it on purpose. They just, I don't know how to say your name. I just send it one other way. If that way don't work, good brother, then it's a lesson learned for week 2. But just that ability, man, to be able to engage and be inspired and be like, what can I say or do? And also with all due respect too, man, like I struggle, and we could talk about this in another book club. I struggle with how we mold, you know, stay accessible, stay engaged with clay, creativity, and, you know, imagination and things of that nature. But I also struggle with how we stay with those things without purpose. You know, like, I don't know if this moment, like, it's tight. It's tight, and sometimes, you know, I'm gonna be honest. I mean, I think it's a what do they call it when you romanticize previous moments? And it's like, oh man, you know, civil rights, man, everybody was at. Yeah, but James Baldwin was writing fiction books too. You know what I'm saying? Like Ralph Ellison was writing fiction books too. Like, it was a lot of people write. Toni Morrison was writing fiction books too. Alice Walker, like, people weren't just sitting around fighting for Justice, they were also writing Color Purple, which is just a great book. This is a great movie. It's just not. It has nothing to do with fight the power. Everybody was not Spike Lee, so I'm trying to figure out the benefits in this space. I think seeing so much tension around where we are politically, which is this book pointed to politics and the state of the world. Just really trying to figure it out. I'm looking at the time. It's 45 minutes and 10 seconds, which I think is semi-accurate because I think we're already on and then we stopped and re-recorded. So we close to, either way, we close to 45. We either added or on it. Any last words, as they say, 60 seconds of game that you might want to close out the book with?
Yeah, I'll say this. Sometimes in thinking about imagination, right? Well, I remember, sometime in school they'll give you like these projects of like, if you could revisit any time in history, what would it be, right? And I always struggle with that. But in the context of this, just thinking about creativity, it's a couple time periods, and I'm going to take this to the diaspora, right? So folks who are of African descent, because if we would say American context, that'll limit folks' imagination of how far back our history goes, thinking about this Sankofa moment. So let's just be clear. It is from the first human being to ever walk the earth to right now. So however long that is, right? So you might say, oh, it was popping and Kemet. They was creating all kind of stuff. But one time I would like to maybe just spend some time around the table. You mentioned a lot of folks, maybe with the exception of Baldwin. But this Harlem Renaissance era, I think was an exceptional time period just around creativity. We know what was produced at that particular point in time, but we also know how that aligned with our captivity in this country, right? And what that meant to go to a place where you wasn't necessarily dealing with that level of oppression on the day to day, and look what it spurred. Look what birthed out of that. Look at the creativity and I say that to say not because of the artifacts that came from that, even though we appreciate those. I say that to say because of what you've always talked about, Drake, and then as part of your understated kind of mission as well, is what happens when there are Black spaces where an environment is conducive to allow the safety, allow the stressors to be away, to then be able to allow us to flow and get in the community to be able to create those things. I think this book space is potentially that. It's an aim at that. But I think we need more of that, more places where the space in the environment allows us to be in that type of way. We don't get that from the day-to-day society, right? That's not going to happen. So what I'm uplifting here in terms of a 60-second, it's not game, but maybe a 60-second plea, is that if you are out there and you have like mind to want to build and create with other Black folks, do your best in your own community to set up some spaces and the conditions that'll be necessary to get you in community and conversation to be able to do that together.
Man, I foolishly will attempt to follow that with less than 60 seconds so folks won't remember these words. They'll remember your words. But I think the only thing that I would add to that, or yes, for my personal, but also add to your plea, is I'm getting ready to go to this conference, State of Black Design, and the only thing that has been heavy on my heart while having the conversation about what I'm going to present and how I'm going to present it is the absence of the conversation of collaboration and the confusion of how we define community, both C words. The absence of the conversation around collaboration and the confusion on how we consider and define community. Community has become not a four-letter word, like a dirty word, but it has become, early when I was doing, when I first started, back when JT the Bigger Figure was
I'm glad you said it because I was going to say it.
Back when cassettes were hot on the streets, people. So while JT the Bigger Figure was dwelling in the lab, I was dwelling into this conversation fresh out of high school, remembering the horrific experience I had as a high school senior, and aspiring to go to school, and having my high school counselor, who I will never say her name publicly, but I haven't forgotten it, tell me, let's just get you graduated and not really worry about college. With now, I always throw out with good intention, because I was not the greatest student. So it's not like I had a 4.4 and she was like, you don't deserve to go to college. She was like, brother, I just, I just want to get you out of here. Let me help you get to the finish line. I understand that, but she didn't say, let me help you get to the finish line. And she didn't introduce me to the possibility of community college. She didn't introduce me to the possibility of, well, maybe not attempt to go to Stanford because you don't have the GPA for it.
Right.
But you could go to these other schools that have a lower, GPA, what have you. That was, I say all that to say is that when we don't understand what real community is, real community looks like that. It looks like, hey man, I'm gonna keep it honest with you. This 2.4 ain't gonna get you into all these other schools you're trying to get into. However, these schools, if you take this class and get it to a 2.5, you might be able to get into one of these. That's one. And then two, the conversation around collaboration. I think we, as specifically, I'm speaking to the people who look like me. And there are some, I'm not talking about all, I'm talking about as a group, the great words of Kevin Hart, as a unit, we are not looking as hot in this area. And that is a conversation around collaboration. We have forgotten, or do not, we my other C word that I love to throw out around capitalism. I think being in America, we've struggled to navigate capitalism versus collaboration versus real community. And the reason why I said that about that high school, I want to lose that point. You say, why did you bring that up? When in the 90s, when I started doing nonprofit work because of my horrible experience in high school, and I wanted to start and help and build and support students, the buzzword was at-risk youth.
Yeah.
Then a buzzword remix to youth in at-risk environments. And I feel that we have, I don't know what words community came before, but it's diversity, inclusion. It's just a word you throw out to show that you are doing something. But the question is, what are you doing?
What are you doing? Yeah.
Because it can't be real community if you saw a student and you didn't say, hey, maybe you want to read Spook Who Sat by the Door. And you felt because they were struggling with Allegory of the Cave, that's the only book, that's the only thing that matters in this class right now. Forget about it. If you can't read that, you can't read anything. You're like, well, what about this? Have you read the Willie Lynch letter? Have you read Countering the Conspiracy to Destroy Black Boys? Or there's 50 million books you could have read. Like, it's like, I don't want to. You're not doing well, so I'm not going to give you anything. That's not community. And then collaboration has to be, brother, how can I help you? Period. That's it. Like, how can I help you? Not how can I help you and how can you help me? That's right. Not collaboration. It's if we start off with how I can help you, it might end up being how you can help me. But if we lean into, I'm only going to engage with people that I know can help me. Everybody is looking and nobody's doing like, nah, I'm not going to talk to Cortland because he don't work at a school that I want to go to. I'm not going to talk to Kamar because he doesn't have the type of money that I need for this project I'm doing. But what you don't know is Kamar knows somebody that has the money. And then Kamar is like, hey man, one of my homies just told me he was looking for somebody. I'll introduce you. We just got to have, we got to get back to it. Those two things, man, like real community and real collaboration. And I think that, to your point, that the book club, I believe, is a starting ground for that reality. And it's not about the books. The pages are dope. The authors are amazing. And reading these, and also for the record, my book it wasn't on the ground. It fell from one place and it landed on top of my backpack. So I did not disrespect my book. Like, this is on the ground. No,
it's never touching dirt.
Never touched the dirt. So just want to throw that out there. But yeah, man, I think that would be it wasn't 60 seconds, but I think those are important realities to coincide with your well-articulated conversation around spaces like this and what we do in these spaces. We got to build real community. We got to have real collaboration. And so that's the start. Brother Cortland, thank you for pulling up. And
Facts.
what we will do is remix Prototype 3. This is the second one. And Prototype 3 will have another version because we weren't able to live stream at all last time. So we didn't make progress. I went and double checked, which I was on YouTube. It was there. So man, and I appreciate you. It's inspiring, and you're gonna be a part of the inspiration next time. So we're gonna the next time we meet, Kamar and I will debrief because if it was a month, it'll be closer to Thanksgiving. So we even though everybody doesn't celebrate it or have you, but it's still, we're trying to respect holidays. We know they exist. We're not like, no. Meet me here on December 25th, whether you like it or not. Okay, well, that's
as if you was really about community. You
I thought you wanted to collaborate on Christmas, brother. Okay, that's wild. That's not gonna happen. But what we may do is, pick a book that's like this book was easy to read, and it might be something that we can actually get done the week before Thanksgiving. So it might not be 4 weeks, but it's easy enough for us because we want to. I thank Kamar for pushing, being present, but also pushing to make sure that we just consistent, man. Like we said, we was gonna be here. We said this last time. We're gonna be here October 25th.
Yeah.
Period. And we're here. So excited. And then Wilson, got our email system down. Everything went out from the website. We cranking. But one thing we're gonna lean into for my other favorite C word is consistency. So we're gonna lean into it, be consistent, and pull up next time. And again, Brother Cortland, thank you for pulling up. I know you're on a different time frame. I don't even know if you're in this country. Usually you're not, but
because he be moving, right?
He's a continent wiggler. And so either way, man, just glad to have you in the space, and we look forward to doing this again in the very near future.
Yeah, salute, brother. Appreciate you.
Yes, sir.
Peace.